Hello, everyone. Welcome inside Three Crows Studios in lovely Morristown, Tennessee. This is Two Guys Talking Baseball. As always, I am Dallas Danger, and I'm joined by my best friend and colleague, Brian Logan. Say your line.
It's been a great week for baseball.
It sure has. We got a lot to cover today on the show. We're going to talk some indie ball, which I always love talking independent baseball. We're going to talk some Major League Baseball, of course, and then we've got some minor league news we want to discuss as well. Really interesting happening in the minors. And but before we get into all that, Brian, as we always do, we're going to start with your thoughts on the Chicago Cubs.
Well, we are playing as well as we can play, and we're playing our hearts out. We really are. It's just not going to be good enough. We can't gain any ground. We just lost to the A's of all people. And we look good there. I mean, we look good. We just gave up more runs than we scored. I mean,
it happens. It's baseball.
It happens. There's some guys that are on fire and, that are playing really well. But it's just too little too late. But I'll tell you what, it makes me hopeful for next year.
Right.
And I have seen Paradey smile twice.
That's great.
I have. He hit a single, knocked in a run, and Napoli said something to him at first base, and he smiled. And then yesterday, they were on the mound for a pitching change, and Swanson said something to him, and he really laughed.
Yeah.
So it was pretty good. So that he's going. I think it was something like before yesterday. It was something like 14 for 26 or something like that with a lot of RBIs. So he's doing a lot better, and it just is what it is. I mean, they started playing better after we had written them off, and they're just running out of time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like we said, it happens. It's baseball, but the problem for the Cubs is that's not really happening to the teams that they need to leapfrog over in the standings,
right?
Because everybody in front of them, sans maybe the Diamondbacks who have hit a little bit of a skid, but the Mets, the Braves, the Padres, they're all playing really well right now, and in the case of the Padres, have been for a while.
Yeah.
So like you said, they just can't gain any ground, and I mean, I think it's just too little, too late. Which not just you, but every person I've talked to about the Cubs who is familiar with the Cubs or is a fan kind of predicted. Like, yeah, they're just getting us excited, and they're going to fall just a little short because that's what they do. So
we need 7 extra days that nobody else is playing. That's all we need. If we had that, it's a shoo-in.
If nobody else is playing and you win 7 games,
we're still not in.
That's only 3.5 you'd pick up on them.
I know, right?
So you're still not quite in.
Well, we need 14 days then. We're going to need 2 extra weeks.
And you're assuming you'll go 14-0 in those 2 weeks.
Well, of course we will, because who are we playing? There's nobody else playing.
Oh, the Cubbies, the lovable losers, as they have often been called.
They are. They're fun to watch, man.
It's a little wild how far we've gotten from the 2016 championship.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 8 years ago at this point. So, it's a whole different team now,
completely. Especially
after those couple of trade deadlines where they just shipped everybody out.
Yeah.
And it's but the Cubs, I think you're right to be excited for next year. I mean, this is a team that's got, is going to look, largely the same, I think, without having everybody's contract situation right in front of me. I think you've got some guys, at least a core, signed up for a little while. And
right.
There's no reason to believe that this can't be the Cubs of next year.
Right.
The team we've seen, as of late. They I know Cubs fans are going to hate me for doing this, but kudos to Jed Hoyer because he rebuilt that bullpen.
He did. He did. We were really hard on him, and I almost feel guilty, but I don't. And
you really shouldn't. I mean, I have yet to encounter a Cubs fan that says anything about Jed Hoyer that's positive. So.
Right. Well, he's not the guy. But he did rebuild the bullpen, and that helped us out a lot.
Yeah.
And it was almost night and day. He did it very quickly.
Yeah, it was a quick process. I mean, they really just overhauled the whole group and started seeing results from it,
immediately.
It was a big change for this team, and I think it gave the rest of the squad a better chance to win the game.
Yeah.
Because this was a bullpen, and I mean, it's going to sound like we're exaggerating, but it seemed like every day they'd get to the late innings and blow it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with the Cubs right now, and I don't know, it might not be much longer. We're talking about the Cubs being mathematically eliminated. So
right. Well,
I don't know what we're going to open the show with at that point, but
we'll figure out something.
I mean, if they're playing games, we'll talk about them. So.
Well, of course. I mean, we can talk about PCA every day. I mean,
sure.
I mean, he's incredible. He's getting it done.
Yeah.
Just hustling and bunting and hitting home runs and chasing down everything in the field. And
yeah,
I mean, he's an inspiration to watch, man. He really, he's getting everything out of his experience.
What does the pre-trade deadline record have to be for the Cubs next year for him to not get traded?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
they're going to have to be pretty good, right?
Yeah, yeah, because that's what I'm scared to death of.
Yeah.
Because that's my guy now, and I mean, I can think back of Tony Campana, who was the heart and soul of our team that one year in like 14 or 15, something like that.
Yeah.
And he reminds me a lot. Now, PCA is better than him.
Of course.
But they were about the same size and same, they brought the same thing to the game.
Right.
And then they traded him off, and I was heartbroken.
Yeah.
And I hope we don't go through that again.
Well, we will see. We will see what the Cubs do in the offseason and, what that team looks like next year. But, reasons to be positive, at least, for the Cubs.
Yeah.
So as far as the Dodgers go this week, I had really, up until last night, had sort of planned on coming in here and saying that I don't know that the Dodgers have the pitching to get the job done in October. But, Landon Knack responded about as well as you could hope for after a really bad outing against the Braves. Shut down the Marlins for 5 innings last night. Offense showed up again, gave us a chance to win, and we did. And you might say, well, it was just the Marlins, and that is true. This is not a good offensive team. But the night before, Bobby Miller pitched against the Marlins and gave up a bunch of runs. So, Dontrelle Willis, D-Train, who I love, always likes to say they drive nice cars too.
Yeah.
These are still big leaguers.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask, Mookie Betts was mic'd up for Sunday Night Baseball last week, and he talked about how the talent level, there's not a lot of margin of difference at the big league level. It's all about what you do with that talent when you get there, and your routine and your prep work, and because that's the thing that I've really learned the last couple years, because I've had the luxury of rooting for a team that in the last 4 years has added 3 of the best players on the planet in Betts, Freeman, and Otani. And those guys work like John Henry. I mean, they are the hardest working ball players I've ever seen in my life. There's a reason they elevate themselves out of that pack of talent that is the players in the major leagues. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, because when you look at the potential postseason rotation, I think you got Flaherty and Yamamoto at the top. That's obvious. Then you're looking at probably, Glass now they've said is done for the year. We got news yesterday that Gavin Stone is very unlikely to pitch again this year. Kershaw is making some progress in his rehab, so we might see Kershaw, but let's just assume he's not going to make it back. we're dealing with what we got on the table right now. Your 3 and 4 starters for the Dodgers are probably going to be Walker Bueller and Landon Knack. And I feel really good about Landon Knack. I think his stuff and his demeanor will play up in bigger games because I don't want to use the term swagger, but Knack definitely carries himself like he's been there before. He carries himself like an absolute pro and a veteran. And his stuff plays up. He throws like 96, which is still pretty stinking good. But to me, you know what? His first spring training, the first fastball he threw, he popped the glove, and I went, he throws that hard, and he doesn't. It just plays up. He's got a really live arm, and there's a lot of life on that fastball. As far as Walker Bueller goes, you know, he's not great. He's not the Walker we're used to, but lately he's been giving us a chance to win. And if he's your Game 4 starter in the playoffs, this great offense, and it's a great offense, is going to be facing a number 4 starter from the other team. So Bueller doesn't have to be perfect or shut down or dominant. He just has to give that offense an opportunity to get on top of the other pitching staff. And I think he can do that in October. And his track record in the playoffs speaks for itself. I mean, he has thrown really well in October for the Dodgers in the past and hopefully will again this year. So, you know, I say all that to say I expected pretty much all week to talk about how I don't know if we've got it, but I'm feeling a lot better today. And, you know, I mean, you look at this team, the last 4 games, they've scored at least 8 runs.
Yeah.
They scored 9 runs 3 games in a row, and they scored 8 last night. I mean, there aren't a lot of offenses that can do that, period.
I mean, they've been producing a lot of runs all year. I mean, on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's a good lineup. And now that we've got it kind of honed in and we kind of have a good idea of what the lineup's going to look like every day, or at least like this is what it'll look like against lefties, this is what it'll look like against righties. And we're getting contributions from everywhere. Yes, we've got Otani, Betts, and Freeman. But, you know, Tommy Edmond is red hot right now. Mm-hmm, and he's hitting for power both sides of the plate. But especially against lefties on that right-handed side, he is really, really rocking left-handed pitching. And so that's a weapon in October. You know, you look at Quique Hernandez, hit a shot last night, and, you know, Quique is sort of known for being a mistake hitter. The ball he hit out last night was not a mistake. It was a pretty good pitch, and he just got a hold of it. Yep. So, you know, his eyesight, you know, the glasses have helped him a ton. So he's gonna have some big at-bats for us. You know, we're just getting it from everywhere. Muncy's been hot. You know, Will Smith has come back and played really well. You know, hit the ball well as of late, which is super encouraging. Right. You know, because these guys, all they do is lengthen that lineup and make it harder to find outs 1 through 9. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think a lot of it too for me is like we're close now. We're less than 2 weeks away from the end of the regular season at this point. I mean, there's like 11 games left for the Dodgers, and I'm starting to get that anxiety. Yeah, you know, because it's just this time of year.
What will they do?
You know, and here's the thing: the pack is so tight this year. There is not an obvious best team. There's not an obvious best couple of teams. If you get in, you have definitely got a shot this year. And I know we always say that, especially with this new format, but it's never been more true than this year. There's parity in baseball, which is something we don't really get to say year in and year out like you do in, say, football. You know? The way that roster construction and the union is set up and the contracts are set up in football, there's a lot more parity just naturally. Mm-hmm. Baseball, the economics are different, and I'm not complaining. I like the economics in baseball, but, you know, it just doesn't, you know, it makes for, you know, and I say that, and we've got all these teams that could win it, and then we have perhaps the worst team in history at the same time. So, you know, it's sort of still baseball, you know? But yeah, it's getting to be that time of the year. I need to pick up some paper bags on the way home for when I start hyperventilating.
I thought you were going to put them over your head in case
Never.
it goes bad. Okay.
Never. I don't believe in that shit. The Dodgers could go 0-162, and I'd still show my face and wear the gear because I don't give a fuck. Like,
well, that's good.
That's my team.
Yeah.
No, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No matter what, that's my team, and I'm sticking with them. Now, I might not watch every day if they go 0-162. I might take some unscheduled off days.
A sabbatical.
Yes, a sabbatical. I just need a week. You guys play the games, and I'll look at the box scores, and I'll come back next week.
Yeah. Oh. But what? Real quick, not to change the subject.
No,
but
please.
I mean, do you think the Whites? You mentioned the worst team ever, real quick, and it made me think of. Do you think they're going to make it to the worst team?
So it depends on how you look at it. Most people are viewing it in the sense of the modern era, and they are 3 losses away from tying the most losses in the modern era, which is 120.
Yeah.
They lost in 13 innings last night. Had a lead, lost it in extras. I mean, they're just and Jeff Passan. I didn't read the whole article. I read about the first half of it, and just I was a little sleepy, so I got sick of reading words on a screen. But Passan wrote a really great article for ESPN where he basically was with the team for a week. And talked about how they're coping, what the demeanor's like, what Grady Sizemore is doing as the interim manager, and it was a really good piece. I mean, Passan's great all the time, but it was a really, really well done piece. And he just talked about how like a lot of them are just laughing at it because the thing about the White Sox is they're not that much worse than the next team. It looks like it on paper because they're like 19, 20 games behind anybody else.
Right.
They have just had, I mean, the baseball gods have been shitting on them all year.
Yeah.
And he lists a lot of things, and I remembered most of them. I was like, man, he's right. A lot of this is just, a lack of good fortune.
Yeah.
So, I think they get there. I mean,
okay, so what makes them what would be worse? They get there and they don't get the 3 losses, so they're not even good enough to be the worst team. Or they actually get the 3 losses and they are the worst team. Which is worse?
Well, I think from a White Sox perspective, you want to avoid it.
Okay.
Because you don't want to be known as that team. Because here's the thing. Part of the reason the Mets are so laughed at is because the record is their inaugural year.
Yeah.
When they were just not competitive.
Right.
Because they hadn't really worked out expansion to a level where teams could be competitive. Nowadays, new team, not that that's happened in baseball in a while, but, in most sports, an expansion team can at least be competitive.
Yeah.
So I just think if you're a White Sox fan or you're involved with the White Sox in any way, you want to avoid that record.
Yeah.
Because who knows when it gets broken? Because the Mets record was set in the early 60s. So, it's been around for a long time. And you could, for the next 60, 70, 100 plus years, be the worst team. Mm-hmm. And you could go on the Win World Series and do all these other things, because the Mets have done that. But they're still sort of like the laughing stock of the league. And I think part of that is the fact that they started off, their first season was the worst season in the modern era for any team. There's a certain lingering effect to that, I think. So if you're the White Sox, you want to avoid it if you can, but I just don't see them.
See, I think I disagree. I think if you're this far in, you got to be the worst. You got to accomplish something, and that it would be a bigger loss if you're not even good enough to be the worst.
But don't you think you've accomplished something by avoiding it at this point? By playing well enough to avoid it?
No, because the only thing they've got is to break this record. Because if not, then they're just mediocre.
But why do you want to remember this season at all? Wouldn't you rather it be a forgettable bad season than the worst season of all time that's going to be talked about forever.
I don't know. They could parlay that whole thing. Look at Bob Uecker. They could parlay that whole deal as.
I don't understand what you're saying. I need you to elaborate on that comparison.
They could parlay that in as the worst team ever and get some endorsements of this. Of hey, try this. It's not that bad because we know what's bad. I mean, they could work with this. Okay, you don't agree?
I don't agree. I don't agree at all. I don't think that's marketable in any way.
Okay.
A bad team is not marketable because you have nobody to market to because nobody's coming to the games.
Well, that's a good point. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out my ass.
No, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I just really don't agree. I think in a competitive sport at that level, you want to try to keep from losing 3 more games. Like you really want to try to.
Well, I'm
play
not saying you tank the games.
I know.
I'm just saying that you at this point you got to almost kind of embrace it.
Well, they have, and that was something that Passon touched on in the article he wrote. They've taken it on the chin. They've. I don't know that embrace is the word. I don't know that anybody embraces losing. Well, I mean, they might. We'll get to that in a moment. Yeah. But, I just think at the major league level, the goal is to win. And, the goal should be to win. And, they're just losing a lot of games, man. And I think a lot of people would just rather forget this season altogether rather than have that record looming over
top of them.
Because, again, who knows how long that stands? They could make the playoffs the next 10 years.
Right.
And it's still going to be, but before that, they were the worst team ever. Because that'd be the story. Oh, they turned it around because they were the worst team ever.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Next year, I mean, we're better than we were before.
Nowhere to go but up at that
Nowhere
point.
to go but up. I mean, we guarantee we'll be better because we were the worst last year.
So, segue time. Speaking of nowhere to go but up, I want to talk about a young man named Derek Bender. Bender was a catcher who was drafted in the 6th round out of Coastal Carolina, was playing for the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles, the Twins single-A club. And on September 12th, which was last Thursday, he got released because in a game that determined whether or not his team made the minor league playoffs, he was literally telling the other team's hitters the pitches that were coming. Now, you may, like I did when I heard this, go, what in the hell is going on there?
Yeah.
But it was reported that other players on the team and even his coaches had heard him say, leading up to this point in the season, he didn't want the team to make the playoffs because he just wanted the season to be over.
Right.
I have some thoughts. I've dug up I've done some research on this guy just as an individual. But First off, Brian, I got to get your take on this because I'm dying to know what you think.
Well, this is ridiculous. I mean, that's against the whole point of the game. I mean, if you don't want to be there, just say, hey, bench me, coach, or I'm out. I'm going home.
Yep.
I mean, there's other players on that team that I'm sure wanted to win that game, and he screwed them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, the things that would have happened in the locker room afterwards. I mean, can you imagine that argument?
Yeah.
I mean, guys that are really heart and soul into this thing, and he's up there giving away the pitches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous, and he should be gone.
Well, he is, and I don't know that he's ever going to get another look.
Yeah, he shouldn't get one.
Which is a shame for him because from what I gathered, and I'm not giving any names, but I have spoken to individuals who have maybe not a personal relationship with Derek, but have covered him in the past and know a little bit about his personality.
Okay.
And one of the things that I heard a lot was had something happened injury performance-wise and he didn't make it to the major leagues, which most people I talked to said he would have been a major leaguer. Okay. Like he had what it takes. He was on a path. Mm-hmm. But had that not happened, he had a future in the game in media because of his personality. He's very eccentric, and I've heard he's very comfortable with who he is.
Okay.
Which leads to things like this, which is honesty to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the other thing. Are there really that many players in single A that want to play more single A games? Probably not.
Right.
But you don't just come out and say it with your full throat and throw the game in a way that's going to get you caught. I mean, he couldn't have possibly thought, I'm going to do this and get away with it and still have a job. Because had he rationalized it at all, which maybe he didn't, and that's why he's in this situation. But if he had rationalized it in his head at all, I mean, yeah, man, I don't know. It's just hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, okay, so we laugh at Bull Durham, and it happened once in the thing, and that's a funny moment in the movie.
Right.
It's a different thing in real life.
Well, and in the movie, it was Crash was doing his job.
Teaching.
He was teaching the kid a lesson. He wasn't trying to throw the game.
Right.
He didn't do it to multiple batters in one game to go, let's get this over with and go home so we don't have to play anymore.
Right.
I just don't. I mean, it's sort of night and day for me, you know. I mean, yes, you know, it's a comedy and it was funny,
but this isn't funny.
But this is not funny for anybody.
No,
like this is really, really unfortunate stuff.
I mean, it just quit at that point. If you don't want to compete and you don't want to play, I mean, just say, hey, I don't feel like playing today. My head's not right. Take me off.
Yep. Because I think in that situation, you get another shot. Mm-hmm. If you're just honest and you say, hey, I'm just done. I don't want to play today.
Yeah.
But again, is the culture in the minor leagues such that you can do that? That's the culture in the majors.
Right.
But you're a major leaguer at that point. You're a consummate professional. You're a millionaire, you know, and they view it as you're helping the team because you'd be hurting the team if you forced it and played.
Right.
But in the minors, I don't know if there's that climate. And I'm saying I don't know. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm saying I don't know.
Right.
I would assume, if I had to guess, that that's frowned upon.
I would assume that too, but I mean, that's better than the alternative. I mean, at least.
Yeah, again, you're not totally out of baseball because I don't think anybody touches Derek Bender now.
No.
Even like at an independent level or any of that, I think he's done.
Because he'll be accused of doing it even if he doesn't.
Well, right, because in the back of your mind, there's always, is he going to do something like that? Mm-hmm. You know, maybe not the same thing, but is he going to lose his head? And baseball's a game where you can't lose your head.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't do it.
No, he needs to seek some therapy and see why he did this.
Perhaps. Maybe therapy is in his future. I don't know.
And I don't say that jokingly. I mean, there's got to be a reason for this, not just I don't want to play.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to even be talking about something like this.
Yeah, it's totally mind-boggling. I mean, it's strange. It's macabre.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, good luck to Derek Bender with whatever's next in life because it ain't going to have anything to do with baseball.
No. Thank you for playing. We'll see you never.
Yeah. Maybe the last time anybody ever mentions your name.
We're not even going to invite you on the reunion tour.
All right. So, you got anything else to say about this? I mean, it's pretty much.
I'd just like to sum it up by saying that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just terrible. So
if you're audio only, I was just signing bullshit. So, I don't even know if the camera caught that.
It didn't. It was too low.
Okay. Well, here. Can you see it now?
Yep.
That is literally the ASL for bullshit.
There we go.
Which is the funniest sign ever.
Now we know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. So let's pivot to some major league shenanigans, and these are more shenanigans, more shit that it's like I can't believe we're talking about this because it's something that we've never seen.
Major league shenanigans. That's it.
That's it, man. And
yeah, there you go. Write it down.
Major league shenanigans, folks. I think we just named the show.
So there we go.
All right. So Garrett Cole, you could argue the top pitcher in the game right now for the New York Yankees, is he's playing the Red Sox, so it's a little extra oomph, even though it's a regular season game because of that rivalry. And he's got a no-hitter going. Well, Rafael Devers comes to the plate, and that's obviously the Sox best hitter. And there's nobody on base. And Garrett Cole puts up the four fingers. And they were talking about this on Sunday Night Baseball, the day after. And David Cohn said he had never in his life seen that, where the player, the pitcher, called for the intentional walk to put a guy on base. Because that's usually, that's a managerial decision.
Yeah, it's not his decision.
Yeah, man. I mean, and that led to a little bit of a rally for the Red Sox, and really backfired for Garrett Cole. So, I don't know, Brian. What's your thoughts on this? I mean, give me what you got.
Okay, so I'm of two minds here. First of all, the bottom line is it's not his call; it's the manager's call. And if I was the manager, I'd have been hot.
Yeah.
However, though, if he's in command of the game and he really feels like he's in the zone and he knows what he's doing, I could see that. But apparently, he didn't know what he was doing because it started a comeback.
Yeah.
So it was bad all the way around. In my opinion, it should have been the manager, the catcher, then him. So he's like third on the line of making this call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just shenanigans. I mean, who does he think he is to do this?
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I hadn't thought about this until just now. We've talked about the Yankees and their manager Aaron Boone a little bit this year. If you'll recall the Gleyber Torres hit where he didn't hustle out a double when it was probably a double.
Right.
Has Aaron Boone lost this team?
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, is this a symptom of that?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't care about the Yankees enough to watch them or keep up with them. Yeah, I know Aaron Boone is much maligned. And maybe rightfully so, because the Yankees fans think they're supposed to win it every year, and that's just not possible.
Of course.
But again, they're the winningest franchise in Major League history. We can argue why another day, but factually, they've won it a lot more than anybody else. And they haven't in 15 years.
Yeah.
At this point, 2009 was the last time they won the World Series. Last time they even went. For the World Series.
Right.
A couple years ago, they were the last place team in a good division, but again, you can quibble with detail. The facts are the facts. They were in last place.
If you're in the cellar, you're still in the cellar.
Yeah, last place is still last place. It doesn't matter what everybody else does. I don't know. This is really interesting, and I think more than anything, it shows how the game has evolved, and this game has gotten a lot more player friendly, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
The union is the strongest in major sports, and these guys are treated really well at the major league level, and hopefully soon we've already started to sort of see the changes in the minors, but hopefully those will take hold and last. But yeah, it's just really interesting to see a player make that call, and
in that position.
Yeah.
It just was weird. It showed that he was afraid of them.
Well, yeah. What else could it be other than he just flat out didn't want to face Devers?
Yeah, he didn't want that no-hitter getting broke up, and he caused it. If I was on the other team, I'd be like, oh, here we go. We got him.
Yeah, we're in his head.
We're in his head, which is apparently what happened and sparked the comeback.
Yeah, definitely. Just, I don't know what else to say about it. It's another weird topic that you explain what happened and you kind of throw your arms up and go, that's the craziest shit I've ever heard.
Well, you can tell it's getting towards October because things are just going wacky.
Things are getting real wacky, real wacky. And in that same vein, I'm so excited to talk about independent baseball. I love independent baseball. Pablo Sandoval, the big panda, famous for his World Series exploits with the San Francisco Giants, was a World Series MVP during their 3 titles in 5 years or whatever it was.
Okay.
He, many people listening and watching may know he got in really great shape this past offseason and got invited to Giants spring training. Didn't make the team, but everyone was very impressed with the work he had put in. So he lands with the Atlantic League's Staten Island Ferry Hawks, independent team. And, he's a hitter and has always been known as a hitter. Was a big guy, power hitter in the major leagues. He's been doing some pitching. And on the 14th of September, got his first professional start on the mound for the Ferry Hawks and threw 5 1/3 scoreless innings.
There you go.
I mean, I don't know. Could he potentially be saying, if I want to get back to the big time, I got to do it as a pitcher? Or do you think he's just having fun?
I think he's just having fun because that's the hardest way to go to the majors, isn't it? I mean, am I mistaken on that?
I mean, right now, probably, because you got to throw so hard to get to that level.
Yeah.
That I don't know that he, I don't know that he would be able to keep up, just from an injury standpoint.
I mean, maybe it was a bucket list thing he wanted to pitch, and it just turned out that he was good at it.
Yeah, I could see that. Let me see here. Yeah, I mean, he's 38. I think the spring training thing was more him proving it to himself.
Yeah,
that he could do it. I think now it's probably just like you said, maybe like a bucket list thing or
trying to check the boxes before you head to the house.
Yeah. But it's super fun to see.
Well,
I mean, great for Staten Island. Because they got to be selling more tickets. I haven't looked up any of that data, but I'd find it hard to believe if they didn't see at least a little bump in attendance this year with a guy like that on your squad.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the indie ball level, you have a lot more access to the players. So, you could have people that are Giants fans saying, well, I'm going to go get his autograph,
right?
And a picture with him or whatever at the Ferry Hawks game, because you can do that in indie ball because they're so it's just less of a media circus and less of a security issue.
Ballparks are smaller.
I was going to say there's not 50,000 people coming to Staten Island Ferry Hawk games. It's a much smaller scale thing, much more of like a grassroots kind of baseball thing.
Yeah. What a great nickname.
The Panda.
The Panda. I wish I had like the Penguin or the Panda or the Sea Lion. Ooh, that's what I want to be, the Sea Lion.
The Sea Lion.
Yes. I don't know what that would entail, but from now on, refer to me as the Sea Lion.
You want me to throw raw fish up in the air so you can catch them with your mouth?
Yes, I'll spin them on my nose and then I'll chomp them.
You did just join a pool. So.
I did just join a pool. And yes, that's why I will be known as the Sea Lion from now on.
The Sea Lion. I'm writing that down. The Sea Lion.
Yes. But no, I'm glad that he got to pitch. I'm glad he did well. And if it is a bucket list, I hope he gets all of his bucket list boxes checked.
For sure, man. Because he did his time in the majors, had success. Was a fan favorite. Right up until the time that he wasn't in the majors anymore. But yeah, it's really impressive. And it speaks to. It speaks to not only his athleticism, but just his work ethic and his dedication and really his love for the game. Yeah. Because most 38-year-olds, if they got in really good shape, the best shape of their career, and tried to make a major league team and they didn't quite make the cut, they'd say, you know what? I tried. I gave it my all. I'm going to the house. I'm retiring.
Yeah.
So for him to go to indie ball at all, I think personally, to me, that speaks to his love of playing the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then to pitch too is just it's crazy. I mean, the last time we talked about independent ball, it was because a 44-year-old politician who used to pitch got an opportunity and stuck it out.
Well, there's so much fun things that happens down there.
Yeah,
in independent ball.
Well, it's the Wild West compared to the majors.
Anything could happen.
Anything, literally anything.
The Sea Line could be pitching next week.
Hey, I just thought about this. It's not on the format, but I feel like we should touch on this. So part of the reason Brian moved to this part of Tennessee when he did was because the Tennessee Smokies, the Cubs AA team, is like right down the street. Mm-hmm. When Brian lived over in Dandridge, they were literally like 25 minutes from his front doorstep. Mm-hmm. They just played their final home series in that ballpark before they move further into the chaos of Knoxville.
Right.
And
Maryville.
Yeah.
Or as you from Merville.
Wait, it's in Maryville? I thought they were going downtown.
No, it's Maryville.
Oh, okay.
It's still down. It's downtown, but it's the outskirts of downtown.
I see. Okay.
So technically, it's Merville.
Okay. Admittedly, my Knoxville geography is not great because I avoid that place.
Yeah.
At all costs because it's a chaotic drive in and out.
Yeah,
of.
it's not campus; it's city.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay.
Technically,
But sad day, obviously. We've seen a lot of cool stuff at that ballpark. We saw Christopher Morel and how he interacted with the kids in the stands at that ballpark, which is something that has stuck with both of us, as we've seen Morel get to the major leagues. And you saw PCA get his minor league Gold Glove award at that ballpark. And, we've eaten a lot of all-you-can-eat burgers and dogs and potato salad and baked beans and potato chips,
ice cream and helmets.
Yeah, a lot of ice cream and helmets at that ballpark. I think they've already determined it's getting torn down. They're not going to do anything with it other than tear it down and build like a hotel or a parking lot or something.
Yeah, right? Yeah, they're not. It's a shame. They thought that Carson Newman was going to play there, but I don't think they are.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to keep it open just for Carson.
I don't think so either. It's interesting. I get it. I understand the appeal of being in Knoxville as opposed to Kodak, Tennessee, but at the same time, like, I don't know that they're going to do better attendance numbers in Knoxville.
I don't think they are.
Because Kodak is, for those who are not familiar with East Tennessee geography, Kodak is basically right next to Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, which is one of the hottest tourist destinations in the country. It is a tourist trap, and you always had fresh new faces every week coming into town that you could pull into the ball games because what better way to spend a night on your vacation than to go see a double-A minor league ball game.
Right.
It was a great place to see a game. They always had great staff, that were highly trained. It felt like you were in a tourist town, because they were so highly trained at dealing with tourists that that even if you weren't a tourist, you got that same experience.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up.
It's a shame. I mean, will I go over there? Probably just to see it. Will I go there on a regular basis? No, because I'm not driving an hour and a half to go see, plus through traffic to get there and traffic to get home. I mean, 26 minutes from where I used to live from my porch to sitting in my seat at 107 was not bad.
Yeah.
But now to put an hour on top of that, no, I can watch it on MLB. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be more than maybe once a year, maybe.
Right.
That's like we'll go once a season type of thing.
Yeah.
But,
where I used to have season tickets. Used to go all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just a shame. They got a new owner and he had a new business plan for the whole thing, and that's just. End of an era. Well,
and it is a good ownership group. Boyd Sports is a good ownership group. They own a couple of the Appalachian League teams, including Johnson City, who I'm a loyal follower of. And it's just a matter of money and business. And I understand all that. And admittedly, for a double-A park, it was not state of the art.
Yeah.
Things were little dated in places. It needed some attention, and it's probably easier at that level to just build a new park than it is to try to renovate an existing one.
Right.
So yeah, it's it's another one of those it is what it is type of things, and I'm glad we had the Smokies as close as we did for as long as we did, and certainly enjoyed every time I went to that ballpark. And I mean, gosh, you and your wife Ashley met people that you still talk to at those games.
Oh, absolutely. One of her best friends we met at the ball game. She was a seat usher. Mm-hmm. And then was a fan, and she sat in front of us, and then we all just got to know each other. And Ashley and her are really close, so
Yeah. So just you'll just have to go to some Greenville Flyboys games.
That's my new thing, man. That's where I'm going to go.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
I'm excited to try to do that. We tried once this year and it just didn't work out scheduling wise.
No.
We wanted to go see Rentaro Sasaki when he was playing for Greenville. I fortunately got to see him play in the All-Star game. But yeah, so it's going to be a few more Greenville games now and less Smokies games.
Yeah, that's okay though. It'll be fresh. Hey, baseball's baseball. We'll get behind this other team also. We're not leaving the Smokies. We're just going to watch them somewhere else.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think my biggest thing is Knoxville didn't work for the AA team before.
Why are they trying to again?
What's going to be different now?
It's nothing. Nothing. I think part of the personality was the Smokies was right there at the base of the Smoky Mountains, not in the city.
Yeah.
Not in Merville.
Right. Merville. All right. So the last thing we kind of have that we wanted to talk about today was, we several months ago at this point, I guess, we talked about the Grimace Mets. Mm-hmm. So the Mets were fledgling a little bit. They bring in Grimace, the purple McDonald's mascot, in to throw out the first pitch. They go on a 7-game winning streak and really have been hot ever since then. I forgot to look up their record in that time, but it's really good.
Right.
Mets are in playoff position now, whereas they really weren't before. And, McDonald's, no pun intended, I guess pun totally intended, is loving it.
Yeah.
Because part of fan appreciation at Citi Field was Grimace came back, McDonald's did a bunch of promotional stuff, and they took out a seat and replaced it with a purple seat in honor of Grimace.
Yeah.
I mean, this has gone from a joke on the internet to an integral part of the history of a team that has so much history already. I mean, this is really cool to see, Brian.
I mean, they've embraced it. I mean, it started off as a promotional thing, and now it's become a permanent place in the stadium. That's so cool. Now, can you sit it? I mean, is it a ticket that's sold?
Yeah,
sit in the purple seat?
It's got to be because it's right in the middle of a section.
Okay,
I mean, it's not by itself. It's not like the prisoner of war seat that some ballparks have that sits by itself that nobody sits in. It's literally in a section.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think you can, and I mean, that's the other thing. They're going to make money off this because people are going to be fighting over that seat.
Oh, yeah, and there's only one.
And there's one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one chair in the whole
There'll be
place.
A list.
There'll be a waiting list. Mm-hmm. Somebody will want to buy season tickets. Can I buy season tickets to sit in the Grimace seat every night? and then if they don't want to go to the game, they'll make money selling the tickets. Because, you can sit in the Grimace seat.
Well, you just gave somebody a great idea.
Guys, I don't think I've given anybody an idea. I think people are already lining up to try to do that.
You think they're on it?
I would think so, yeah.
Or is it just when Grimace comes, that's his seat?
Grimace wouldn't fit in the seat.
Oh, poor Grimace.
Yeah, it's up a lot of stairs too. It looked.
That'd be terrible for him to go up the steps.
Yeah, he's lovable, but it's hard for him to get around.
He's a big old fella.
He is. He's a larger guy. He's a larger.
Well, he can't help it.
Larger fast food mascot.
It's hereditary. He can't help it.
Yeah, it's not really. I mean, it's all those French fries and Big Macs.
It is. It's all. Well, it's the Hamburglar is feeding him all this stuff, and what's he gonna do?
Yeah.
It's tough over there in McDonald's land.
It must be. It must be.
I mean, Mary McCheese ain't doing nothing about it.
Well, I mean, is he ever?
No, he's over there eating, cannibalizing his own food himself. He's a Big Mac eating Big Macs.
We get down some rabbit holes on this show, but I didn't think analyzing the politics of McDonald land was going to be on the docket today. But here we are.
Yeah, the Fry guys are just sitting there looking just all paranoid, like, "Oh, we're next." We're next.
Right. It's just. My goodness. But, I mean, the Mets have played really well since this whole Grimace phenomenon started, and they, like you said, they've embraced it. I mean, one of my favorite moments of the year, of the season so far, is when they had that rain delay, and it's just pouring rain, and there's water pouring off of the stands, and there's this dude in a crude Grimace costume just shotgunning beer.
Yeah.
Like screaming and rallying the fans, and the Mets loved that because
of course.
Most people would have been like, okay, it's time to go home. Mm-hmm. There's not going to be a game. But these people are still buying beer and hanging out and cheering when it's just raining. And
they're loving it.
And they are loving it. It invigorated the fan base.
Yeah.
Gave
them something to rally around.
In a real way, yeah. I mean, and so, not that the Mets fan base needs to be rallied because they're a very loyal fan base. It gave people a reason to come out to the ballpark every day.
Yep.
It gave people a reason to pay a little bit closer attention to this team, and it really sparked a run that's gonna, it's looking like it's gonna lead to the playoffs.
Yeah.
For the New York Metropolitans. So good on them. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's good for the Mets. It's good for baseball, and who knows? Maybe the Pirates will bring Birdie out next year and give it a try.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, this could really open up for some sections in all the ballparks for all of the mascots.
What is cooler, the purple Grimace seat or the toilet seats we talked about with Lake County?
I got to go with the Grimace seat.
Yeah, you like it better?
I like purple. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah. It is a cool color.
Yeah, and I just keep in my mind. I'm just going through this whole thing of the McDonald's land, and they're all trying to get there to get to the seat.
Yeah.
Grimace is all excited, and I don't know. I just got this whole imaginary world in my head about this.
Well, two things. First off, at one point during the initial Grimace craze, McDonald's changed their social media profile pictures to Grimace in a Mets hat.
Yeah, sure.
So they've embraced it just as much as the team has.
Right.
And again, I think they're probably making money off of it.
Of course.
So that's what is at that. The other thing, we were talking about how cool of a color purple is. Did you know, Brian? I read this article a couple years ago. There was one point in the 90s where the Dodgers considered changing their primary color from Dodger blue to purple.
No, that's wild.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah.
That would have been... Well, here's the thing. I think the fans would have hated it, and it wouldn't have lasted very long.
Yeah.
But it would have still been part of the history.
Because it's so iconic, their colors.
I know, and it would have, to me, it would have been like a symbol for a really, like, not that great time of Dodger baseball, you know, in the grand scheme of things. You look at the great teams of the 50s and 60s, and then the late 70s, early 80s, the great teams, and then late 80s, they're the underdogs, and they win the World Series with the Kirk Gibson home run when he could barely walk, and Oral Hershiser had a historic season that year, and then, and then there's a dip.
Yeah.
And then now it's like back to what the Dodgers are supposed to be. But there's that like 90s, early 2000s era that's kind of like an eyesore compared to the rest of it, you know, at least from like the 50s on. And it was definitely in the Los Angeles years.
Yeah.
That was sort of the big dip in the Los Angeles era of the Dodgers. And I'm happy, of course, to see they've come out of that and gotten back to prominence, and I think they're there to stay.
Of course,
with the new ownership and the way they're doing business. But But yeah, I mean, it's just hard to imagine the Dodgers in anything but blue.
I know, purple. I mean, who else uses purple?
The Rockies.
The Rockies.
And then when they first came around, the D-backs, but they've changed now back to the red. And
right.
I actually like the Diamondbacks look now. Because before they were doing like the red with the sand color, and then they'd have like a subtle teal.
Yeah.
It didn't work. But now they've embraced the teal completely, and I think the red and teal look really good together.
Yeah.
On a consistent basis.
Yeah. I know you don't like them, but I like the ones that had it might be the one you're talking about, that had the real bright letters, but the very dark, kind of off-putting color to the jersey, and it was almost reflective.
Well, the one that got me was they would wear their home whites, and everything was the same except the numbers were teal.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was bright and reflective, and it was like, it just didn't look right. It didn't look good at all because it clashed with the rest of the uniform. Now they're using red as the primary, and the teal is like the accent color. And again, with it being consistent, it looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Downright passable even. I mean, it's a good look. But can you imagine if, let's say the Dodgers change to purple, the Rockies come along in purple, and then the D-backs stay purple and teal.
Oh, that's too much purple.
There's 3 purple teams, and they're all in the same division.
Yeah, that can't happen. That's going to freak me out.
But it's kind of cool that the Rockies kind of own purple.
Yeah, it is.
Like it's their color because nobody else is using it, and I don't think anybody else will, at least not prominently. You know, I mean, maybe as like an accent color at some point. But, it is kind of cool the Rockies are the purple team.
It is. Yeah. It is. And I like the Rockies City Connects that are green.
Did you see, actually this week they announced they're getting new ones next year. They're retiring the green and white.
Okay, no, I didn't see the new ones.
They haven't shown them. They've announced that next year they're going to unveil new City Connects.
I got you. Well, and I like that the City Connects are for a couple of years or a season or whatever, and they come out with new ones.
See, I don't know that I like that. I get why they're doing it, to sell more jerseys and make more money, because it's Nike and they care more about making money than making sure the uniforms are wearable and comfortable for the players, which is a whole nother discussion for another day. But
Nike said, "Ease up, brother. You're a little stiff."
Well, Uncle Phil, you can suck it because your company is horrid. Especially for slapping your logo on these cheapo Fanatics jerseys that are worse than what I wore in Little League.
Wow. How do you feel about
Well,
this?
listen, I defended them. I defended them hard because at first people were like, oh, the numbers are too small. I don't like it. And they're just bitching to be bitching. Then the players get them on the field and they're tearing and ripping. If the players sweat, they sweat right through them. I mean, that was the thing. Major League uniforms were supposed to be custom made and very nice, and they're just not right now. And they're addressing it. I understand they've already announced they're addressing it, and they're hoping that start of next year they fix these issues. But between Fanatics and Nike, neither one of them's got any business making these uniforms.
Right.
Like, if that's what they're putting out there, Major League Baseball said, you know what, we're breaching contract. Fuck you. We're going to go find somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because again, this is a players first league now in a way that it hasn't been in a long time. And if the players don't like them, you got to change them. You got to get rid of them because, these billionaires wouldn't be billionaires without the players.
Well, that's true.
It's just the long and short of it. They wouldn't have all their money that they sit on and act like they don't have if it wasn't for the great players and the personalities of the players that's why people buy tickets and buy merchandise and buy hot dogs and beer because they come to see the players. They come to see the stars of the game, the Otanis, the Harpers, the Bobby Witt Juniors, guys like that. They sell tickets. And that's how these billionaires make their money, is by selling tickets. Because if you buy a ticket, you're going to have to buy something to eat, something to drink.
Right.
You're probably going to get a souvenir or a jersey or a hat or
remember.
Yeah, just something. So, and even if you don't go to the games, you're ordering. Like me, I don't go to a lot of Dodger games because they're on the other side of the country, and that's an expensive trip. But I order all kinds of stuff online, and they make money off that too. So,
Right.
It is what it is. Are we like right at an hour?
Yep, sure are.
That's perfect because I think we're about tapped out unless you have anything else you want to get off your chest this week.
No, I'm good, man. I'm just writing my stooge report to Nike about you.
Okay, well, tell Uncle Phil I said fuck you. All right. Well, we covered a lot of ground today. We
sure did.
We did. We touched on a lot of topics. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening. You can follow us on Twitter. The show is at 2GTBpod. Brian is at 3CrowsBry. I am at Dallas Danger. 2GTB.com will get you to anything we do, anywhere we are, all of our socials, as well as all the different ways you can enjoy the podcast and our store. If you want to go directly there, it's 2gtb.store. Hats, shirts, phone cases, stuff for your pets, stuff for guys and gals and everyone in between. And it's free to take a look. So head over to 2gtb.store. Also, patreon.com/2GTB. It's been a couple weeks, but we're going to get back to some Patreon, new Patreon content soon. And there's plenty there now. Our original 11 episodes are over there, as well as Married with Baseball, 2 episodes of a podcast Brian did with his wife, Ashley. We've done some bonus videos talking about some different things as well. And as we get into the off season, we're going to be getting really creative, not only on the main show, but on Patreon as well. So we'll get back to that. That's the best way to support us financially too, is to buy something or go over to Patreon. That money gets to us directly and helps us keep this show free, because it is free for you to listen. So in order for us to continue to do that, we got to financially support it. So thank you for your efforts there. And I'm going to mention YouTube again. You can watch the show on video on YouTube if you're listening on one of our podcasts. Audio-only streams, but even if you don't want to watch the podcast on YouTube, we ask you to please, if you like what we do, to go subscribe on YouTube. We want to do some new things over there, and we're just limited with what we are able to do because of our low subscriber count, and that's just us being honest with you. So if you don't mind, go over to YouTube and subscribe, or if you're on YouTube, definitely subscribe, and you'll be the first to know when we put new episodes up each and every week. And, I guess that does it for us this week. For the Sea Lion, Brian Logan, I'm Dallas Danger.
We'll see you at the ballpark.